getting that education out to the world to know there are options.
It's like we're a kid in a candy store. We love this stuff.
And it's found a strategy and it will just run it.
Really, really understanding the emotion and how to use the emotion. Hello and welcome to another episode of Root to Rise. My name is Dr. Emily, your host, and I have an incredible show for you today. I have two guests who are two powerhouse women, and we are going to talk about mindset, your health, and of course, how that's going to improve your longevity. My first guest is Melissa and Billie. She's an award-winning podcaster and the host of Don't Wait for Your Wake-Up Call. She's a master NLP, timeline therapy, hypnotherapy, and integrative health coach. She is known as the friendly toxin slayer. And Melissa helps people heal their body, mind, and spirit, and she trains other coaches to do the same. My second guest is going to be Billie Aadmi, who is the CEO of Go Mindspire and is known as the brain trainer. She's a single mom, international real estate investor, and a former police officer, so make sure you behave. Billie empowers people to align their unconscious mind and unlock their full potential. Together, both of these women have co-founded Amplify Impact Academy, where they train coaches and professionals in NLP, hypnotherapy, and additional methods that they will be sharing with us. And they are helping people and professionals clear self-doubt, rewire their limiting beliefs, and step fully into their purpose. I am so excited to have both of you on the show. Welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us, Dr. Emily. Super excited to be here.
Yes, of course. So I want to kick this off by asking both of you or each of you, Billie, what is your personal/professional mission?
Ooh, how much time do we have? Well, really, it's actually, the way to do it would take long. Really, at the end of the day, what I want people to know is that you can heal trauma without talking about it. That's a huge thing for me. As, again, being a police officer for the last 20 years, we've dealt with a lot of trauma on a daily basis. We've done a lot of things, seen a lot of things. And, we were mandated to go to therapy. And I always felt worse when I left. And I wondered why. And now I know why, is because I don't need to talk about the trauma. All I needed to do was learn the lessons of what happened in that traumatic event that I couldn't learn in that moment because the environment didn't allow for it. And now learning how to tap into our unconscious mind where all our memories live, that's where we can access that trauma and heal it in a gentle and effective and fast way that lasts. And so that's one of my personal missions, is to get timeline therapy into a household name and teach people that everything serves a purpose. And if you are dealing with something that's painful in your life, it's because you haven't healed it. And that's the way that your unconscious mind communicates to you, is to say, hey, let's deal with this. And now we just have a more gentler way than, 20 years of therapy to help heal it.
Right. Excellent. Love that. Melissa, same question.
For me, it's providing people the knowledge, the education, the tools to allow them to come to a place of whole health and know that there's more than one way to heal, and that the programming of you get sick, you have symptoms, you go to the doctor and they give you a pill and make you better is outdated. And getting that education out to the world to know there are options is really my mission in my career. And my personal mission is to help break the poverty cycle in the world by educating girls and keeping girls in school and stopping teenage marriages. And right now, through Girls Matter, which is our give back, we literally keep girls in school in Uganda and Kenya to serve that purpose. Because when we educate the other half of the population, when they get out into the workforce, we raise the GDP of countries and we can bring countries out of poverty. The solution is very simple. It isn't easy because it takes funding. However, when we all come together, we can create that difference in the world and empower girls all over the world.
Yeah, I love that. Gave me goosebumps with that. I love that. So Billie, why mental health? I know that you were a police officer and you had your own experiences, but why are you shifting your career? Why have you shifted your career and dedicating it towards mental health?
Well, I tell people that this work saved my life, not on a physical level, on a mental, emotional, spiritual level, because I did all the things. I got married, I had the kids, I got the job, I went to school, check, 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 and yeah, I felt like I was dead inside still. And really, what I want people to know is that if you're not living every day in like something that sets your soul on fire, like when we talk about this, Melissa and I, it's like we're a kid in a candy store. We love this stuff. And it's because we know that this is like, we are meant to be happy, healthy, wealthy. We aren't meant to be in stress and anxiety and pain. That's not how the system was designed. Just like our bodies are meant to heal itself. It's not the way it was designed. And really, it's not just mental health. Like, that's the term out there. And, there's a beautiful shift happening in the world where now people are wanting to like learn about consciousness. And really, what is it all about? What is the meaning of life? There's got to be more to it. And a lot more people are asking this question, and that leads to mental health. And it's not something where, it's like a one and done. Like, this is a lifestyle that we want to create. It's not, I use the term brain trainer because, like, as I used to be a personal trainer. So if I can teach you how to do a bicep curl, you have to go to the gym to do the bicep curl. And you're not going to just go once and be like, okay, good, I'm healthy. This is a lifestyle that you're going to live. And we can teach you tools and techniques to live that lifestyle on a daily basis, including teaching our children. Like, I have very young children. I teach them these tools. It's going to help them, empower them to then find their mission and their purpose and really, I call it like the easy button of life. Like, really, life should be easy. If it's hard, you're doing it wrong. And really, that's what mental health and I think spiritual health, emotional health, there's so many pieces to it that I want to integrate all of those and allow that alignment, because that's a big buzz term out there, is being in alignment and really approaching it from a holistic standpoint where you're not just dealing with what's happening here in the physical body. We have to tend to all the higher bodies and, all our minds.
So with this, you had used this word consciousness, and I feel like I'm very much drawn to that word lately. And I was listening to a podcast about like the power of what the mind can do. And this woman was speaking to her deceased husband and kind of having these signs. And she spoke a lot about this higher level of consciousness. So I was doing some searching and I was like, I want to start to tap into this higher level of consciousness. And it came into like breath work, right? So conscious breath work was one example. But just that word, consciousness, or being more conscious, what does that mean for the listeners so they can understand or explore that a little bit more?
That's a beautiful question. Thank you for asking that, Dr. Emily. To me, there's so many, just like you said, breath work, there's so many ways around it. To me, consciousness means the level of thinking, i.e. the level of neurology. Like right now we have this level of neurology that our environment, we can get here. Now, if we can expand our neurology, i.e. our way of thinking, we can hold more information, right? We have, this number is like 10 to the 10th to the 11th power of neurological connections in our body. That's a huge number. Like, we don't even know how to say that number. If we can start learning to activate more of them, we can hold more information, therefore increase our level of consciousness. Think of a baby. Like a baby grows and it just naturally grows, and it now can have that critical thinking. Unfortunately, as we grow, we get a lot of limiting beliefs and limited programming put into our consciousness that limits us. It's like a computer. So think of the brain as the hardware and the mind is the software. So if we don't update this software, then we're going to be using that same software that, that inner 5-year-old was running. And we always say, like, our inner 5-year-old is not qualified to run our adult life. So the inner 5-year-old that had that limiting belief that they weren't loved or weren't powerful or, unworthy, all that, is now running in the background in the software in our minds, which is affecting our reality. So think of it like updating our software, just like we update our phones and our, computer to the latest operating system. Exactly that. That's consciousness. If we can update it, now we can expand our consciousness. Therefore, we can think in a different way. And when you can think in a different way, now you can have a different life. Because most people are wanting to better their life. They can't do it with the same software. That's like the definition of insanity. You're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting new results. So if you learn, and this is what we teach, is you're constantly meant to learn, you're constantly meant to grow and evolve. And it's through these challenging things that happen in our life that we're supposed to look at it from a learning perspective. What am I supposed to learn here and grow from? As opposed to what we call being stuck on victim island, like, oh, why is life happening to me? No, it's happening to you because you're supposed to learn something here. So let's get you over here to Solution City. Now, how is this happening for you? And that's where the transition piece comes, when you can learn to really stand in your power and then have the tools to manage life when it comes to you and instead of getting you stuck. That's what really learning how to constantly grow and expand your consciousness is. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Melissa, what are some of your favorite ways to expand consciousness then for the listeners? Is it just breath work, or is it the work that both of you do?
As Billie said, there's many different ways to be doing that. And we teach through our various courses many different tools of the unconscious mind. So as we start, just as a very basic starting point is simply understanding the alignment between the fact that we have three minds. As people start to understand that and use the tools to ensure that they've got rapport with their conscious and their unconscious mind, as well as their higher self, and all three are in alignment, now we're able to expand our consciousness because we can actually tap into the tools in our higher self. And all the resources are there for us to access, for us to be able to fulfill our mission in this lifetime, as well as our blueprint for perfect health. Our conscious mind, which is only the 10%, doesn't communicate directly with the higher self. In other words, we can't think our way to the solution. We are actually more than we can think, because our unconscious mind is the access point. It's the 90%, and therefore has so much more ability for us to be able to access and work with, and it connects to the higher self. So when we stop thinking, which is the conscious mind, we get into our creative and problem-solving unconscious mind that has access to the resources. That's where the solutions come. That's where we're expanding our consciousness. And there's many, many different ways to access this. And all of the tools that we work with are guiding people to building rapport between the conscious and the unconscious mind. So we have an ease of flow of communication between the two minds.
When you say higher self, does that mean spirituality?
The higher self, some people call it the supra-conscious mind. So it's what we consider one of our three minds. We have four bodies and three minds. And yes, it's connected to our spiritual body. And yes, we're tapping into our spirituality as we tap into our higher self.
Got it. Now I see you use the word unconscious, not subconscious. And I know that's intentional, but why do you not use subconscious? So what I learned in medical school was conscious, subconscious, unconscious. And when we talk about things like autonomic nervous system, that falls under one aspect, and then there's other deeper layers.
So we consider the unconscious and the subconscious minds to be the same. However, because we work with neuro-linguistic programming, and the middle name of that is linguistic language. Language is very, very important in how we are thinking inside our head, talking out loud, because our unconscious is always listening. And so our language is very precise. And the reason we don't use subconscious is because that prefix of sub means lower than or less than. And there is nothing lower than or less than about the unconscious mind. It is the other 90%. It is running our autonomic nervous system. It is keeping us alive. It is keeping us breathing, our heart pumping every second of every day. All of that is happening outside of our awareness without us giving it a moment's thought. So when I started learning about the unconscious mind, I was like, wow, I need to give my unconscious mind a whole lot more respect. And so we deliberately use the word unconscious mind, which has nothing to do with being unconscious and needing to call 911.
Right. So these unconscious beliefs that we establish when we are younger, are they a protective mechanism, or what is the origin, and why is the nervous system or the unconscious mind so attached to certain beliefs which are shaped, when we're 3, 4, 5 years old, that follow us in our 40s, 50s, 60s? What is the benefit of that?
That's a great question. So when you're a child, like from 0 to 7, we don't have like an analytical, critical thinking mind yet, right? We can't, with a toddler, say like, what do you think would happen if we went outside when it's raining and you don't put your coat on, right? We just don't have those conversations with kids. It's like, go put your coat on because it's raining. It needs to very specific instruction, right? And so it's the same thing the way our mind is. Like there's something is between the conscious and the unconscious, which is what we call the critical faculty. And that usually starts forming around the ages of 7 to 9. And an example of this is that, between 7 and 9, kids start wondering, asking the questions, well, how does he get around the whole planet in one night and give every kid a present, right? They start getting that critical, analytical mind thinking. Before that, they are strictly 100% unconscious. So think about it. They are little download. When we are born, we have to learn how to talk. We have to learn how to sit. We have to learn how to walk. We have to learn how to eat. We have to learn how to be in our family. It's designed that way so that children can actually grow. Because imagine if we started thinking about, the way we do things now. If we got up to learn a new skill and we fell, we would just kind of give up and start making all these stories about ourselves. When a kid needs to learn how to walk, it will get up and fall and just laugh and get back up again.
Yeah.
So the unconscious mind, because it's completely open, it's like a sponge, it doesn't have a filter yet. So it's not just downloading the good things that we need, it's downloading the not so good things.
Okay.
The unconscious mind is the feeling mind. And we know when we're crying or we're sad, that's not a good emotion. Now, are they saying I'm not loved? No, the kid doesn't really, saying, okay, I'm going to implant this. It just goes in. Just like when we're learning how to walk, it just goes in. The strategy becomes, gets created. So the child, the unconscious mind is impersonal. It will take everything, it remembers everything, and it just files it away. And so this is where it's not like some people can pinpoint, I remember that. Most people don't know when that happened. Because remember, we ask people, like, when's the first time you ever felt anger? If they say, I was 9 years old, they're thinking of a significant emotional event. Okay. Now, anyone that's had children or seen children or even the movies know when babies are hungry or they have a diaper, they will scream. They get angry, right? Or sometimes they get sad. And so they get those emotions, and those emotions get connected to all these other emotions. And it's the same concept of limiting beliefs. And so when we can identify as an adult that these limiting beliefs are running in the background, and we have a very specific process we take people through to access the unconscious mind, it is a form of trance, then they are coming to this realization, wow, I had no idea that this is what was running my life. Like, I'll give you a personal example. I grew up with a very traditional East Indian family, and, in our culture, women aren't successful. They're not entrepreneurs. We're not taught to be independent. And so that programming that I was given growing up was exactly those. So no wonder every time I tried a business, it would fail, because unconsciously, again, this is out of people's awareness. This is the key. Unconsciously, I was sabotaging myself because deep down, my programming was that, Billie, you're not supposed to be independent. You're not supposed to be successful. You're not supposed to be an entrepreneur. You're supposed to be a wife and a mom. Once I uncovered that through these tools that we teach, now I was like, no wonder. Okay, I can heal that. I can release it. And now, we have several successful businesses, and I'm literally just got out of my own way.
Yeah. Why do you think, or maybe it's not this way, but I feel that most limiting or most unconscious beliefs that are established in childhood have a negative association to them. Is that, do most people carry these unconscious beliefs of limiting kind of the sabotage that you were supposed to be a housewife and not, push into the career, or I'm not loved, or, I don't have a voice, or I'm invisible, like these beliefs, a lot of them have a negative connotation to them. Is that a survival protective mechanism or?
So first off, to your point, there's 4 core wounds that all of humanity shares at least one of, which
Okay.
is unlovable, unworthy, not good enough, and powerless. And the unconscious mind is always serving us. So there is some level of protective mechanism around that in that moment. However, what happens is something happens again that has that belief come up again. And over time, it deepens the neurology. So we end up with one or all 4 of them, depending on the life that we had as a child, the amount of trauma that we have, etc. Because we run stories in our head. So we have something happen, and then what's the thought process we go to? What's the story that we go to that reaffirms that belief that came in one time? And what the unconscious mind does is, because it has so many jobs to do, it needs to be efficient. Some people call it lazy. I prefer to call it efficient because I have the utmost respect for my unconscious mind. And so what it will do is it will run the neurology that is deepest, and it's found a strategy and it will just run it. Now, there's also something called secondary gain here that comes in, where we run a strategy and then maybe somebody looks after us. And as a result, we learn to keep running that strategy because it gets attention. It gets someone caring for us. It gets someone showing us love, where the story in our head was we weren't getting any, right? Now, this can work very well as a 5-year-old. However, our inner 5-year-old is definitely not qualified to run our adult life. Because the unconscious mind is so efficient, it will just keep running that strategy until we change it. And we can change it. What most of humanity doesn't realize is that we can change it. A lot of people are still stuck in, well, this is the way I am. This is who I am. You know, there's sayings, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. All of that mentality is keeping people stuck. Or people are just out there living their life and coming up against a brick wall going, I'm almost there and I can't get there. I don't understand why. Cancel, cancel, cancel. And it's because of this programming. And so what we want the world to know is that we can rewire the programming to serve who you are now becoming and release what is no longer serving. We don't have to still live with that childhood programming, which, yes, at the time was serving us, was protective, and no longer is.
And it all served a purpose, right? Everything serves a purpose. It's a matter of, are you learning what that purpose is, or are you you're not learning, and therefore it's going to still stick around, right? It's just like anxiety. This is why we created the clear the screen, was the anxiety is there to serve a purpose. It is literally a warning from your unconscious mind to say, hey, stop thinking about what you don't want, because that's what's happening, right? It's something out in the future that it hasn't happened, and you're thinking about all the ways that it could go wrong. It is literally saying, hey, can you focus on what you do want? I.e., like, get rid of the horror show and let's put up the love story, because if it hasn't happened yet, we can imagine it going well. And as soon as we teach people through this anxiety clearing exercise for an acute incident of anxiety, it literally, once we clear the screen and put it up the love story, the anxiety disappears, because now it's done its job. It is there to tell you, hey, we think of it like the rumble strips of your unconscious mind, right? And you've ever been driving down the highway and you hit the rumble strips, you're going off the side of the road and it goes, brrr, and it's like, hey, get back in your lane. It's the exact same concept. However, people get caught up in, oh my gosh, all this stuff, and then it gets them like stuck in it. And this just allows people to break through those patterning. Again, this is for acute. If it's more generalized anxiety, then we use timeline therapy for that, because that's more of, there's a deeper limiting belief around that is not allowing you to live in like the what if of the beautiful love story as opposed to the horror show. And it has to do with filters and that. Timeline therapy.
Really understanding the emotion and how to use the emotion to your advantage to learn the lesson at which it is providing. I had a prior guest on a episode where we spoke about fear, very similar to the anxiety, that what can you learn from that emotion of fear of what you're feeling? What is it trying to teach you, and how can you use that to essentially push into it and find self-growth. So that's a really great kind of analogy to that as well. You had mentioned something, Melissa, earlier that I want, if you could repeat, is these 4 bodies. What are the 4 bodies? I know we discussed the 3 minds, but what are the 4 bodies and how can the listeners use that?
So the 4 bodies are the spiritual body, the mental body, the emotional body, and the physical body. And when I got into being a health coach and becoming an integrative health practitioner, all of my training was around the physical body only. It wasn't until I got into this work working with the unconscious mind and started learning that we actually have 4 bodies. And by the time the symptoms show up in the physical body, they've already moved down through the other 3 bodies. So when we start the healing process, we do start it in the physical body, and we have to then go clear it in the emotional body, the mental body, and the spiritual body. And that's how we get to total health and complete healing, because the society has taught us to stuff down our emotions. In doing so, that's causing dis-ease in the body. So we want to heal the physical body, and we need to clear all those stuffed down emotions that we've been carrying around like a bag of rocks for however long. And literally, when we clear the emotions using timeline therapy, we're lightening the load and we're releasing all of that. And again, we do it by getting the lessons, because everything is happening for us always to learn something. And the reason that emotion is still being carried around is because we were taught to stuff it, as opposed to, at the time, ask the question, what do I need to learn here? Or perhaps we weren't even able to ask, what do I need to learn here, because we were in full-on survival mode, right? So we get the lessons, and then the unconscious mind can release all of the stuff down emotion. And then we move into the mental body and we release the limiting decisions and beliefs. And we talked about the 4 core ones, and there's a myriad more, some of which you've mentioned. We all have our limiting decisions, and we don't have to live with them anymore. We can release them. And then when it comes to the spiritual body, it's about bringing it all into alignment. Are we in a job that's like, the golden handcuffs, where we go to work every day because it pays the bills and it gives us the medical benefit plan, and yet it's sucking our soul? We're not in alignment. How do we come into alignment with who we were always meant to be, our mission in this lifetime? And once we clear out the limiting beliefs, guess what? Now we can do that, because we've taken all of that out, and the opportunities are now open to us, and we're tapping into our higher self where the resources are, in order to step into that spiritual alignment as well. And that's why I jokingly call myself the friendly toxin slayer, because I help people detox their physical body, their emotional body, their mental body, and then the spiritual body. And that's how we get to complete health. Now, I'm sure there are listeners that know people that have gone through some kind of health crisis, and they've healed it in the physical body. And then 6 months, a year later, there's another health crisis. Well, guess what? That's because that's the emotional body going, hello, you didn't address me when you dealt with the last health crisis. So I'm giving you more symptoms to bring you into awareness that there's more work to be done.
I think it's probably a select few that listen to that or know that, because that's not shared in traditional medicine, unfortunately.
Exactly. Traditional doctors are not trained in the 4 bodies. It's on the holistic side, and people that are working with, the mind, body, spirit, that have this understanding. And so that's why we are so passionate about getting this message out to the world and letting people know there's other ways that you can heal that are much more gentle and that actually result in lasting health.
I love that. Billie, do you believe in karmic debt?
Absolutely.
And what, for the listeners, just what is that? What would that mean to them?
So remember, as we were saying, like, we're here to learn. That's consciousness. That's how we increase consciousness, is learning and growing and evolving. Now, in every lifetime that we're here, we're supposed to, learn some lessons. And this is more of a spiritual talk that, we kind of sign up for this, right? Like, we call this Earth School. Like, what did you sign up for? What did you want to come down here and experience this time? Well, for example, I wanted to experience forgiveness. Well, someone needs to do something to me in order for me to experience and learn forgiveness. Now, looking back on my life, I'm like, well, betrayal's kind of been the theme of my life. I wonder why. Because I haven't really learned forgiveness truly. I thought it was about other people. It's about me. And so as I started diving deep into my higher bodies and learning about the higher self and all that, I'm like, oh my gosh, it has nothing to do with that. And had I not learned it in this lifetime, it will be passed down. So it will go down. Sometimes I'll pass it down to generations. Like I know, my family's from India. There was lots of generational trauma that was, kind of came into my world. And, I had some trauma as a child. And now, for the first time as an adult, I started talking about it because, again, the program was just shove it down. I don't want to talk about it. And then as I learned this more, I'm like, oh, I need to learn something there. So as I started speaking about it and shared it with, some family members, they were like, oh, yeah, that happened to me too. I was like, oh, okay, so you didn't deal with it. So guess what? It got passed down to me because the lessons are always going to be there. And so timeline therapy allows us to not just heal in this lifetime, it allows us to heal past lifetimes. It allows us to heal generational trauma. Because when we heal it from the back, guess what? Now we heal it for the future. So that now my daughter doesn't ever have to deal with this and my son won't have to deal with any of the trauma. I'm not going to push my limiting beliefs on them now. Right? Just like my parents put their limiting beliefs on us I'm not knocking them. They did the best that they could. Right. And one of the things that we teach is everyone's doing the best they can with the resources they have in that moment. Now, a lot of people aren't very resourced. I mean, I'm speaking from experience. I was not very resourced for a long time. And so I was angry a lot of the time. I was short. I was, I was sad. I was hurt. And so this is what I mean, that when you can bring that all into alignment, we are meant to be happy, healthy, wealthy. If we are not, it's because we're not paying attention to certain areas of our life. We're not learning the lessons that we came down here to learn. And, Melissa and I always joke, we're like, this is above our pay grade. Like, you can't, it's like the law of attraction. People are like, I don't believe in that. I'm like, well, it's a law for a reason, right? It's like the law of gravity. If you don't believe in the law of gravity, you're likely going to get hurt. So it's the same concept. Like, what are you putting out there is what you're going to get in. So, again, one of the first steps is awareness. Well, what in your life is showing up is patterns, right? We look at patterns. Like, what's the pattern of your life? You've heard of many, I've been to many domestics. Like, the pattern is like these women stay in these relationships. Well, why is it? Well, because in their mind, their programming says that we stay in our marriage. We don't leave marriages if they're harmful. I chose to break that pattern. And so that's what I mean. Like, now I'm healing that karma. I'm healing those limiting beliefs and that programming. I'm shifting it so that now I can expand my consciousness. And therefore now I can teach my kids the same thing and allow them to expand their consciousness, right? I'm teaching them these techniques. I teach them that they're responsible for their state. They're responsible for their reality, for their feelings, for their emotions. And now here's some techniques that I can share with you to help you get there. And then go find your purpose. What are you passionate about? What sets your soul on fire? Like this work, I mean, I can talk about this all day, every day, right? Policing served a purpose. I wanted to give back. Where I kind of joke about this, that consciously, the core of me, I want to serve. Unconsciously, I know I took it. I wanted that job because I like the power and the justice, because I felt so powerless and treated so unfairly that I think unconsciously I was like, that'd be a good job to have. Because it was, again, I was talking about, it was fulfilling a need. It was fulfilling that need that I never had as a child, feeling that I had power over my life. Yep. And so it's fascinating to, once you start uncovering, like, what has been showing up in your life and what are you not paying attention to? And when you start paying attention to it, now you have the choice to shift it into what you actually want.
So Melissa, why do you think everyone is not doing this work?
Because everyone doesn't know about it yet. And literally, we would love to see this taught in kindergarten, because it can be, as Billie talked about earlier. Yeah, as Billie talked about earlier, children are entirely in their unconscious minds up until that age of 7 to 9. Kids love this work, and they're so attuned with their imagination. And the unconscious mind is literally the home of the imagination. So ultimately, we would love to see this taught through the school system. Whereas right now, we're just taught about the conscious mind. And unfortunately, the cynic in me believes that it isn't taught in the school system on purpose. Because if it was, we would all know how much more power we have within us to literally fulfill our mission with so much ease and grace. And when we're not taught this, we're able to be controlled. We're able to be kept small and within a system versus questioning the system and thinking outside the box, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's, like I said, the cynic in me is why I believe this isn't taught widely. And yet we're coming into an era now where people are looking for more understanding. People are stepping into recognizing that there must be more than this and wanting to learn. And so that's why we started Amplify Impact Academy, which is it's not just for practitioners, it's literally for anybody that wants to learn these life skills. You have an unconscious mind, why not learn the tools to work with it and have the easy button access to your life? And, there's others like us teaching this as well. And together we are all getting the message out there. And thank you for having us on the show, because that's helping us get the
message out there. Yeah, absolutely. So let's say someone were to see you as a client. You mentioned NLP, neuro-linguistics programming, timeline therapy, hypnotherapy. Just what does that process look like for the listeners if they are curious to finally tap into that unconscious potential?
Yeah, we work on the entire system, right? And there's so many modalities, as you talked about breath work. There's so many different modalities out there. The question is, are you using the right tool for the job? And a lot of people are wanting to, like I'll use the analogy, build a house with a hammer. Well, it's going to take you a lot longer, right? Talk therapy is amazing for awareness. It doesn't actually do a lot of healing, right? Because again, we're not tapping into the unconscious. So are you doing it the hard way, where you're going from the outside in, the onion, or are you going to the core, the root cause of it, and basically imploding it from the inside, those limiting beliefs? And so this process that we take people through is working on the entire system. So we deal with, we do a very detailed personal assessment to figure out not really what the problem is. We want to know how they do their problem, right? We're always looking for the pattern, like what's not the content of the problem, but what's the process of the problem, because that's the pattern that's showing up in your life. So when you can identify that, now we run people's values, we run people's strategies to see where it's at the beginning, because we always figuring out where they are and where they're going to come, because we can actually guarantee our results. We're one of the few coaches in the world that can guarantee our results in writing, because we're dealing with behavior and neurology. So once we figure that piece out, now we do the timeline therapy, which is releasing the top 7 negative emotions: anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, rage, and shame. And we do it in a very specific order. And then from there, we extract, okay, what are your limiting beliefs that are out of your awareness. And there's usually a theme. So sometimes, as those 4 that Melissa was talking about, there's a theme of unlovable, or there's a theme of unworthy, or there's a theme of powerless. So we figure that out. And then, we remove any of those limiting beliefs. Now that's clearing the past, right? Now, okay, let's clear the past first. Let's make some space. Okay, now let's see what kind of strategies and stuff are still running, because we rerun the values and the programs. And now we use neuro-linguistic programming to shift those, right? Literally using the language of the mind to get your desired result. So a lot of the time we don't even need it, because again, the unconscious mind is very smart. It's like, oh, okay, cool. I released all that stuff. Now I don't need this value anymore. Now I can shift it. Now I can, I don't need that strategy anymore. Okay. This is where the NLP comes in. Then now that's the present. Now we can work on the future. And that's where we bring in the hypnotherapy, where, people are like, can you, do some hypnotherapy. And the analogy I use is, if I plant a beautiful suggestion, let's imagine it as a flower, but if the soil is dirty, there's lots of limiting beliefs and negative emotions, that flower will just die. So you first clear the past, work on the soil, make it nice and healthy. Now, when we put those suggestions into the unconscious mind, for one, the unconscious mind will accept it, integrate it, and now it'll affect the behavior moving in the future. And so we work on the past, present, and future as a system, all in an NLP coaching bucket. So we do give tasking. we do give, like homework, because we want people to start firing those new neural pathways that they're creating to the point that now that's just their new way of being, which again leads to why we can guarantee our results, because now your brain is actually functioning in a different way. It's used to go this way and now it's going this way. And that's what people's lives are actually transforming and they're changing.
How many sessions is that done over?
That's all within 10 to 12 hours. And we do it
10 to
within
12
30
hours. You do this whole,
This whole process is
it's like a whole
10 to
new
12
person
hours.
in half a day.
30
I know you don't do it in
30
one day.
We can. There are practitioners out there that do it all in one day. We don't. We like to spread it out because we want to build some tasking in and, kind of help people. If people that have done this a few times, like we always recommend doing a full breakthrough every year. Other than that, just every month do a timeline therapy cleanup, because again, we're never done, right? It's not like a one and done. We want this to be a lifestyle, and now we want to give the tasking in between so that people are actually applying it and integrating and actually embodying this new way, this new neurology that we have just opened up.
Would they see both of you at the exact same time?
No. No, together, Melissa and I teach. And again, how Melissa alluded to, we want to give people, instead of giving them a fish, so they eat for a day, we want to teach them how to fish. So we don't actually work a lot one-on-one with people anymore. We have our master practitioners that we refer people to, because then it's more cost effective.
Okay.
We have a membership where people can come in and have guided sessions with Melissa and I. However, our focus is really on the teaching, so that people can not only learn this for themselves, they get the breakthroughs in our trainings because they're very experiential, and now they can help others do the same. That's where our tagline is amplify you and then amplify others. And that's how we really create lasting change for the planet.
Whether that's amplify others as a coach or a practitioner, or simply as a parent or as a partner or as a leader, right? Once you have these tools and you start implementing them in your life because you're showing up differently, it's fascinating to notice how other people around you start showing up differently as well. So it's incredibly powerful. And the other piece I want to add to what Billie has just explained so beautifully is that with many coaches, they start working on the behavior at the outset. So somebody has a problem and they go to the coach and then I want to change this behavior or whatever. And that's where they start. And that requires tasking, that requires willpower, that may require accountability programs. And people work really hard at it. And then guess what? Life happens, because life always happens. And we get into this state and boom, we're back to the old behavior, because the program for the old behavior is still running. With our work, we finish with the behavior happening automatically, the new behavior, because we've gone back to the root, we've shifted the filters, we've changed the neurology, et cetera, et cetera. So the old behavior will not happen. We have a new behavior that we're deepening the neurology of with the tasking, and then life happens, and guess what? It's the new behavior that runs. And that's the power of this work and working with an entire system.
I love it. I mean, that's exactly why I wanted both of you on the podcast to share. I fully believe in what you're doing. I personally am always on this forever pursuit of self-growth and understanding and, digging up the trauma of my upbringing, because there was definitely generational trauma in my family, and kind of exploring it. So I will definitely be a client of yours. But as we wrap up, is there something that I should have asked both of you that you wanted to share with the listeners, or any last little notes or thoughts or nuggets that you want to leave with the listeners?
Well, I wanted to just touch on, we really touched on very little, is the power of community. And, life is going to happen, as Melissa just said. When you have a community of like-minded people that are there to help you keep your frequency high, like keep your energy and your vibration high, this is where community really comes in. And Melissa and I are very, very proud of our community. It's called the Team Light, our light circle. Because, now if something happens and you don't know how to deal with it, or, you get, as we say, we get stuck on victim island. Now, if your tools, like sometimes people are like, it doesn't matter how much I do my sun's chart, it doesn't matter how much, I can't figure out what I'm supposed to learn here. Someone throw me a bone kind of thing. And that's where they come into the community. And sometimes you can't see it around you. And someone else looking in can be like, you know what, Billie, I see this pattern running. And so when people come through our program, whether or they want to become a practitioner, now they have this community of practitioners that if something comes up, that all of a sudden I have this limiting belief that keeps popping in my head. Melissa, can we jump on a call really quick on Zoom and can you just blast that out for me with timeline therapy? Great. Guess what? Now I can keep moving forward instead of getting stuck because now I know I have these tools. And so that community piece is really like a really big proponent of what we do because as much as you have these tools, if you don't implement them and use them, it's just like going to the gym. It doesn't matter how many tools you know. You know, we know people that have tons of certifications and they don't do anything with it. We've seen sometimes with our students, we say that like if you use it or lose it, right? It's a skill. And so if you can be tapped into a community and have, you know, come and do your monthly timeline therapy cleanups, then that is just going to help you really amplify and again, really step into your power of what your mission and purpose here is.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that last part. That's very, very important. Melissa, anything?
Yes, I just want to let people know that it doesn't matter where you're at in life. It is never too late to start. Our body, our minds are so forgiving and we can shift it all in such a short amount of time. And imagine, you know, you might be in your 60s, you might be in your 70s listening to this going, oh, well, I am who I am. No, that's programming, right? The whole, you can't teach a dog new tricks. It's all programming that we go around and say in, you know, society, and then we take that on as a belief. You literally can shift your neurology and step into the person you were always meant to be in a life of ease and flow, having access to these tools, using them, being in community to come back to when life happens, because it will, to lift yourself back up again, and literally having access to therapy for the rest of your life to keep you on the path of who you were always meant to be. And we love this work. We're so passionate about it. And it's so empowering to watch people step into their best version of themselves.
I love that. It just energizes my soul, this conversation, because it's, again, something I believe in so full-bodied in your work and what you're trying to do. So thank you so much. How do listeners find out more about your program, your website, follow you on Instagram? Share all of that for the listeners.
Yeah, I mean, our website is Amplify Impact Academy. We are on all the socials as Amplify Impact Academy, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. And, you know, we're always doing free webinars once a month. And it's literally called Meet Your Unconscious Mind. Because some people don't even know what it is. So it's like a meet and greet. And, you know, we do this every month because, again, our programs, they're designed to really build on top of each other. And so that, you know, if something has resonated with, you know, the listener, that means that go in that direction, learn some more. Like, you know, when we get goosebumps when we talk, it's like those are called what we call truth bumps. That's the universe talking to you and saying, hey, go in that direction. I just gave you a little nudge that this is another breadcrumb that will lead you to your path. And whether it leads them through our community or another community, as long as you're moving forward, that if something shifted in you, then move forward, then keep going. And we have so many different programs, whether you want to go all the way through to the master level, or you just want to learn self-hypnosis, whether you want to learn higher self-hypnosis, or, you know, just kind of learn a few little skills of how to really amplify your results in your mind, then we have something for everybody at whatever level that people want to begin at.
I love that. Well, I am full of truth bumps.
Yeah.
So thank you both so much. I really, really appreciate your time. And to all of the listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. And definitely check out what these two women are doing. They're making a powerful impact. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Dr. Emily.